It said my name in my grandmother's voice, soft, tired, hungry. Open the window. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. Hello. This video will be about strange occurrences that happen when everything seemed normal. Just having a good time in their house, talking, visiting some family, the usual stuff. But they just did a few different things that made everything worse. Maybe you think that these things were just normal, that even you could have done different. And you're right, they are. They are pretty normal. So even you can experience something like this if you do something different in your day. Or probably this is just a story for some of you, but if you don't have enough respect for it, it might become your next reality. Let's begin with our program, What Crawls in the Night. Hello. I have a story that didn't happen to me directly, but to my brother and my cousin. We went on vacation with my grandparents to a small hidden village in Oaxaca. I have to say, it was truly a beautiful experience, one I would love to repeat someday. To get to my grandpa's house, you had to drive down a dirt road that almost no one used. Their home was about 50 meters from the edge of a hill, right at the end of that road. This happened in the early hours of January 1st, after the New Year's celebration had ended. Only my uncles, parents, and grandparents were still awake, talking. It is important to mention that my grandparents had two houses on the property, one where they lived, with the kitchen and the main living area, and other small house with two bedrooms for guests. The room we were staying in had a wooden door that faced the end of the dirt road. The only thing keeping it closed was a shoelace tied around the handle. Around 2 a.m., my brother, my cousin, and I were in that room playing a board game. There was no internet or phone signal, so that's how we entertained ourselves. At some point, I got thirsty and decided to go get some water from the other house where everyone was gathered. Before leaving, I jokingly told my brother and cousin, "Don't let Momo get you." I didn't go through the wooden door facing the road because I was too lazy to untie it. Instead, I used the other door. But as I walked past the wooden door, I felt something strange, a heavy, unsettling presence, like the feeling of being watched by a predator. It was so intense that I froze for a second. I thought maybe it was a wild animal outside. I hurried into the other house. I grabbed a glass and was about to step outside to the wash area, where they kept drinking water. When my brother and cousin came running in, they looked terrified. When I asked what happened, my cousin told me something that still makes me think about it to this day. He had said that shortly after I left, someone or something started knocking on the wooden door facing the road. But it wasn't a normal knock. It was desperate, aggressive, like whatever was outside was being chased or trying to get in quickly. My brother assumed it was me trying to scare them and said, "We know it's you. Stop messing around." But at that exact moment, they heard my mom's voice coming from the other house asking, "Where's your brother?" They realized I wasn't outside the door. After hearing my voice and my mom's voice coming from the other house, the thing outside slowly leaned towards a crack in the wooden door, and they saw it. An eye, red, watching them. My brother my brother says to this day it wasn't a normal eye. It wasn't human. He describes it as something like a dragon's eye, large, glowing, unnatural. Terrified, they ran out through the back entrance near the wash area and into the other house. When they told me what they had seen, my skin went cold. Just minutes earlier, I had felt something standing near the same wooden door, watching. After hearing everything, my grandfather immediately stood up and ran toward the edge of the hill at the end of the road. He began shouting words in Nahuatl, almost screaming them into the darkness. When he came back, he told us we should all go to sleep and not step outside for the rest of the night. If we absolutely had to go out, we were to go with an adult, and we obeyed. The next morning, during breakfast, my grandfather explained why he had run toward the edge of the hill. Years ago, during the Spanish colonial period, several local indigenous people had been executed and thrown into that ravine. He said that having never received justice, their spirits wandered the area. According to local belief, the spirit looks for a soul with Spanish blood to take revenge on. It usually targets children. That's why he ran to the hill and shouted in Nahuatl, repeating the words, "Leave them alone. They do not belong to you," over and over again. Hearing that terrified us, but my grandmother reassured us, saying we didn't need to be afraid because my grandfather had scared it away. It was a very strange experience, one that still makes me wonder. Sometimes I think about how easily I could have chosen to leave through that wooden door, and I can't help but feel that I was lucky not to be the one standing on the other side of it. There will be a second story for this video, so you guys haven't finished the video just yet. Let's start with this second story. Hello. Something happened to me that truly terrified me, and even now, I still can't explain it. One day, I decided to clean out an old storage room in my house and turn it into my bedroom. It was summer, and the heat would collect in that room. My bed was placed parallel to a large window that almost covered the entire wall. The room faced the street from the fourth floor, high enough that nothing should have been able to reach the glass. The first night I slept there, I lay facing away from the window. At some point at the middle of the night, I woke up, or at least I think I did, with the overwhelming feeling that I was being watched. Not just watched, but observed. The air felt thick, like gravity itself had suddenly increased. Breathing felt heavier. Moving felt wrong. Like my body was being pressed down into the mattress. Then I felt it. At first, it was faint. The sensation of movement on the bed behind me. No footsteps, no weight exactly, but hands, several of them, slowly brushing across the mattress, pressing into the fabric, moving closer and closer towards my back, like something was searching in the darkness. Like something was searching in the dark. I didn't turn around. I tried, but I couldn't. Every instinct in my body screamed that if I looked, something would have been there. The hands kept moving closer, dragging lightly across the mattress as if feeling for me, until decided to react. On pure instinct, I lunged forward and grabbed the wooden base of my bed as hard as I could. Right at that moment, something pulled me hard towards the window. My bed is a heavy, rustic wooden frame, the kind that takes effort to move even a few centimeters. And on top of that, I weighed over 125 kilos. And yet, both the bed and I slid across the floor as if the weight meant nothing. I shouted for Alexa to turn on the light. While the lights were coming on, I felt the bed still moving, scraping across the floor, until we had been dragged more than a meter towards the window. Then the light came on. Everything stopped. The room was completely empty. Nothing at the window, nothing on the floor, nothing under the bed. But the bed was no longer where it had been. Since that night, I've never slept with the windows open again, and I never will. About a year later, something else happened. It was around 4 a.m., and I was working on some videos in the living room. The apartment was silent except for the sound of the computer and some music playing quietly in the background. Then I heard it, a soft tapping on the living room window. The same fourth floor, the same height where no one should be able to reach. The curtains were closed, and I didn't want to look. Instead, I turned the music up, louder, trying to convince myself it was just a building settling or maybe branches in the wind. The tapping came again, louder this time, more deliberate, not random, intentional, slow. Then faster, more intense, more insistent, like something outside was growing impatient. It went on long enough that the silence between each knock felt worse than the sound itself. Then it stopped. I forced myself to get up and go to the bathroom. I tried to act normal, like nothing was happening. But the moment I came back into the living room, the knocking started again. Only this time, it didn't stop at the window. This time, it spoke. It said my name in my grandmother's voice, soft, tired, hungry. Open the window. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. The voice sounded wrong in a way I still can't explain. It sounded exactly like her. The tone, the rhythm, but empty somehow, like something repeating sounds it didn't understand. I stood frozen for several seconds before moving. The instinct took over. I grabbed the largest knife I could find. I left the music playing. I left the lights on. I left the computer running exactly as it was. I didn't even look at the window. I walked straight to my room and locked the door behind me. Then I pushed furniture against it and curled up on the floor in the corner, the furthest corner from the door and windows, like a terrified child. I stayed there the entire night, listening, waiting for the knocking to return, waiting for the voice to come back. I didn't fall asleep until the sun came up. And sometimes, late at night, when the apartment is quiet, I still think about one detail that bothers me the most. My grandmother had already passed away by the time that voice called for my name. Well, guys, that was today's stories. Hope you guys liked it, and be careful because you never know when it's going to happen to you. Might seem like a normal day, you just did something different, and now you're living a paranormal experience. And remember, don't ignore the sounds tonight. You've already awakened it. Good night, and don't let the bedbugs bite.